Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How you doing today, Will?
Doing great, Cam. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic, and once again, sorry we have not posted in a while, but school is winding down for the both of us, and once our school years are finished, it will be smooth sailing from then on, because we'll have the summer and we'll be free. So yeah, we'll get back to regular releases, and we'll do even more special things. I have some plans that I've been thinking of for the podcast. So, and this summer we'll be more active on the channel. Um, I don't like missing the podcast. Will I'll tell you that much. I do not like missing weeks of the podcast because we miss so much. We have so much to cover. Like today we have a lot to talk about today. Will
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but we'll try to get to all of it. We have some really cool topics such as your Warriors losing and my Celtics.
Ooh.
Well, it wasn't great. To talk about, we also want to talk about Guardians 3, which we still haven't reviewed yet, despite it being out for 2 weeks now, right?
Since May 5th.
Yeah. So we have to talk about that, and I think I'll be seeing Spider Verse 2 tomorrow. So we have that to talk about. But yeah, before we do all that though, I just want to talk about a movie I'm excited for releasing soon. The trailer just dropped. That movie is The Meg 2, The Trench. The Meg 2, The Trench. It's called. And the first movie titled The Meg, I enjoyed. I saw it in the theater. It was a lot of fun. I'm a huge fan of shark movie and actually just sharks in general. They're fascinating, and shark movies are also fascinating. Jaws is one of my favorite movies of all time. Um, Even Jaws 2 and Jaws 3 I enjoy. Not Jaws 4. We don't need to talk about that. But The Meg was a really solid shark thriller horror action movie with Jason Statham, and I had a lot of fun watching it. And so I'm really excited that we're getting a sequel, and it looks to be really fun. So yeah, I have my hopes up for the Meg 2. Well, I would definitely recommend watching the first Meg movie. It's just a whole lot of fun.
I'll certainly have to check it out for sure because it sounds like something I would enjoy because like you, I think Jaws is just a classic, fantastic shark film, just an amazing movie.
Of course, yeah. So yeah, definitely recommend that one. And next thing I'd like to touch on is Mission Impossible 7: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Wow, what a long
Great
title.
title. Great
Very
title though.
long title, I have to say. Um, my excitement for these two upcoming movies. Oh wow, I've been a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise for years now. Ethan Hunt is a phenomenal character. Tom Cruise, I mean, we're we're not going to talk about him as a person, but we're talking about him as an actor right now. He's incredibly talented. He You have to respect his dedication to film, He he jumped off a cliff on a motorcycle. A big cliff. I don't know if you saw the behind the scenes video,
Oh,
Will.
I didn't see the behind the scenes video, but I did read about it being the biggest stunt in cinema history, which is incredible for Tom Cruise at his age, like
Yeah,
breathtaking.
he's 60 years old and he's jumping off of cliffs on motorcycles. And
The
he did it
guy's
six
unbelievable.
times. He did it 6 times. And in the behind the scenes video, the director, I believe Ralph McQuarrie, um, said that there is going to be an even bigger stunt in Dead Reckoning Part 2, which will come out
Wow.
around this time next year. Um, so, wow, that's insane to hear that there's going to be an even bigger stunt. I mean, it has to involve going to space or something. But yeah, this is really cool. That he's doing all these stunts, and as a longtime fan of Mission Impossible, I'm excited to see this franchise have its grand conclusion because I feel like it's going to be epic. Um, I feel like we're gonna lose my favorite character in the Mission Impossible franchise, Benji, which will be sad, but death makes movies better. um, so it'll add some emotional weight to the movie if that happens, which I'll support. So yeah, my hype is off the charts for Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1. uh, and yeah, I have you watched all the Mission Impossible movies yet? Well,
I've seen the first two, but I'm gonna watch the rest before these two come out this summer. I'll just speak on the trailers for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. First of all, is it a long title? Yes, but I also think it's a great title. I think it's super compelling. I'm very intrigued to see what it all means. I think the two trailers have been really good. I'm excited to see it on the big screen this summer, which is where those types of action movies are meant to be seen. And I'm just stunned by the stunts and the things that Tom Cruise does at this age. I'm just thinking of actors who have been famous over decades, going all the way back to like the 70s and 80s and 90s, thinking of more like old time actors. I can't think of one more popular right now than Tom Cruise. I mean, the guy's just killing it right now.
yeah, I know. I mean, Top Gun
Top Gun
Maverick.
Maverick was amazing.
It was so good, and I feel like this is gonna be just as good, if not better. I mean, because the only reason I say better is because I'm just a bigger fan of the Mission Impossible franchise than the Top Gun franchise. Moving on from Mission Impossible, Indiana Jones 5. Well, it's not looking great review wise. Me personally, I am still off the charts excited for this movie, but currently it is sitting at a 49% on Rotten Tomatoes
Not great.
after premiering at the Cannes Film Festival. Yeah, not great is right. I'm sad, but there is a part of me that kind of expected this. I feel like once we see the audience scores, they'll be higher than the critics. That's for sure. I feel like, and I know the Cannes Film Festival is filled with a lot of big cinema critics, and I feel like Indiana Jones 5 might not be the movie you want to show a bunch of big time movie, like professional movie critics, you know what I'm trying to say here, right?
Oh yeah.
It might not have been the perfect movie to premiere there, um, but I do want to go through some of the reviews and give my reactions to them. Also, by the way, the poster for Indiana Jones 5, Dial of Destiny, looks so good. It looks so good. They like replicated an old poster really well. It looks awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I want to start off with a positive review from
Okay.
a top critic. Um, Alyssa Wilkinson says it's a film that feels like at least a sideways commentary. Oh wow, that's not really a review on the movie. That's kind of just on the directing. I don't want to read that. Let's. Oh yeah, this is. We'll start off with a bad review actually. Top critic says this isn't the goodbye which Harrison Ford deserves. Whoa. That's not what Harrison Ford said. I mean, he was crying.
Wow.
He was crying at the Cannes Film Festival. I don't understand how this person can say that. Because Harrison Ford himself clearly thinks this is a really good send off. All right. Oh, here's a negative. Nope, that's a negative one. We'll read it. It's a short one. Overlong, no thrills, and no fun. That
That sounds. Would you say that's what the fourth Indiana Jones movie is?
um No. Every single Indiana Jones movie is fun. I don't believe that you can call this movie not fun. I don't believe that that's true. I don't understand, but maybe once I see it for myself, I'll see where he's coming from. But as of right now, I can just not. I don't believe it. Here's a positive review. Ford, of course, is wonderful as Indy, getting some decent quips and grumpy lines, and his dynamic Waller-Bridge, who is his co-star, who plays his granddaughter, I believe. Um, and they say she is really amusing and a lot of fun to watch, which is awesome to hear. So the two stars of the movie are awesome, according to Catherine McLaughlin. Um, Good to hear there. She gives it a 3 out of 5, which I was kind of expecting what I would give it. Fine with that review. Well, I feel like that's going to be the movie right there.
Yeah, that sounds like a movie that I would enjoy. That I would enjoy solidly enough. I mean, 3 out of 5 stars. That's in the solid category for me.
Yeah. I also want to mention that this is the last movie John Williams will ever do.
Which is huge. I mean, you want to talk about a legend who you can do absolutely nothing but heap praise on? It's that guy, living legend. He's incredible. I mean, the Star Wars theme is one of the most iconic pieces of film score that you could ever think of. I mean, the guy is a master.
For sure. And he did the Fablemans score too, right?
Oh yes, he did a very good job with it.
Yeah, so I mean, would he? I don't feel like he wouldn't. I feel like he wouldn't do a movie if it was bad, right? I feel like John Williams knows which movies are good and which ones are bad, right? That's giving me some hope.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I mean, I think he knows what he's doing, and heck, I bet you could say there are certain movies that are actually elevated by how good his scores are. So I actually feel like his music may have the chance to elevate how good a movie is at times because it's so amazing.
yeah, totally. Um, Now, finally, the final thing I wanted to touch on for Dial Destiny, I just want to read the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
This is kind of the overall thing that the critics are saying. This is the overall consensus. Um, here we go. Although there is a nostalgic rush in seeing Harrison Ford back in action, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a largely unnecessary franchise finale. Unnecessary. That's the big word right there. That's it. So I think the fourth movie was unnecessary. You know, if you've seen the third, you know it ends on a storybook ending. It ends with Indiana Jones and his father riding into the sunset. I mean, that's an ending right there. And then Indiana Jones 4 brought it back, which was unnecessary, and might as well keep it going with a fifth one, right? So I feel like that, yes, both these movies are unnecessary, but doesn't mean it's unnecessary, doesn't mean bad, right? You know? It doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad movie because
Right. Just
it
means it didn't have to be made.
yeah. Um, but I kind of see where some of these critics are coming from. I'm feeling that some of what they're saying is true. I'm feeling that nostalgia is going to play a big part in this. Um, But I'm also feeling that people are just being way too harsh on a movie that's just supposed to be a lot of fun and it's just a throwback and just a send off to a character everyone loves, a legendary character in Hollywood. And Harrison Ford seems to be proud of this movie, so until I see it, I'm not gonna be agreeing or disagreeing with any critics completely. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see this movie in June. I believe it comes out in June, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I believe June 30th is the release date for this fifth installment in the Indiana Jones franchise.
Yeah, so it'll be exciting to check out. But next on our talk about list is the NBA playoffs. Well, I'd like you to talk about your Warriors first,
Yeah.
because we haven't talked about that yet, and that happened a while ago. So I feel like we should
Yep.
talk about that. Take it away.
Yeah, second round exit, semifinals exit for the Golden State Warriors, lost in 6 games to the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think ultimately what Steve Kerr and Draymond Green and others said was right. This team maxed out. If they were a championship team, they would have gone farther in the postseason, but they just weren't this year. This was the most turbulent season of Warriors basketball I have ever experienced. The veterans and the young players just couldn't mesh. But ultimately, I think that all of this, and the reason I'm saying it is because Steve Kerr and Draymond Green literally came out a couple weeks ago and said themselves that this was the reason that they didn't go farther in the season. And I think it all goes back to Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole. The Warriors culture, I've always thought so highly of, but when something like that happens, even a team with as great a culture as the Warriors have, I think this season proved that even if you have a great culture, something like that is just really hard to come back from. And when you hear stuff like disconnect between the veterans and the young players, it's hard not to think back to that at the start of the season when a veteran punched a young player. So I just believe that there is trust that needs to be regained within the Golden State Warriors. Steve Kerr himself said that. So I really think all of this season goes back to how it started and the Draymond Poole incident. And uh, one final thing, Warriors general manager Bob Myers announced he is stepping down yesterday. And that is such a hit because Bob Myers is a general manager who developed extremely strong relationships with the Warriors' big three of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green over the years. And he's a guy who knows how to have the difficult conversations with players about taking pay cuts or smaller contracts and doing the things that they need to do for the betterment of the team. He's made such brilliant moves as a general manager over the years,
Yeah.
including turning Kevin Durant into what was eventually Andrew Wiggins, and he helps them win the title next year. So I think Bob Myers leaving is huge, and I think that all of this traces back to Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole at the beginning of the season, and I think there's a clear trust that needs to be regained within the Warriors or organization because the joy that I've been accustomed to see them play with and the togetherness that they've displayed for so many seasons just wasn't there this year. It was just an off year by all standards.
Yeah, but it's crazy that a teammate punched another teammate. That's just kind of crazy to hear in the NBA right now, you know?
Yeah, and look, Draymond Green has had many amazing games for the Golden State Warriors over the years, but that punch permanently, excuse me, broke my trust with him because I have seen this story way too many times over the years. Draymond Green will do something, apologize for it, and then about a year later go back and do something again. So that was the final nail in the coffin for me. I appreciate him for the player that he is and the great games he's had with the Warriors over the years, but what a complicated guy. My trust with him is completely broken at this point.
It makes sense. You can't do that. Um, but now I'd like to speak on the Celtics for just a little bit.
Yeah, so
A disappointing
so
loss.
close. So
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. Jalen Brown probably shouldn't have had 8 turnovers.
Yeah, that's
I,
that's something he struggled with.
I, I, I,
Absolutely.
do- I don't I don't understand. that I don't understand how that can happen. And if you're in the NBA, you shouldn't turn the ball over 8 times. Never mind when you're in the semifinals. In Game 7 of the semifinals, how do you turn the ball over 8 times? I don't get it. I don't understand. He had more. I believe he had more turnovers than the Heat, the team. I mean that's upsetting. That's ridiculous. That shouldn't happen. I'm not I'm not saying necessarily to trade him like a lot of other people are, because I still feel like he can be a valuable asset. But I feel like if Tatum doesn't want him here, he's going. Um, Obviously Tatum hurting his ankle because he landed on that hard and it landed at a weird angle. So obviously he was banged up throughout the game, which definitely affected us. But I just feel like we could have. Derek White had an exceptional game. I feel like I
Oh
just
yeah.
it's just so disappointing. We came this far, we pushed this hard just to get rejected in Game 7. Um, but I think we have to get rid of Joe Mazzulla, get a different coach. I don't know who we should get right now. Um, just kind of do a little reset button on the coaching thing because, well, Joe Mazzulla was put in a tough position. He isn't a great coach. And oftentimes players end up coaching themselves, which isn't supposed to happen. um, I don't know if anyone told Joe Mazzulla that, but players are not supposed to coach themselves, obviously, and just a new coach would help. Maybe some trades. I believe Horford is going to retire after this year, um, which sad to see as he's contributed so much to the Celtics' legacy. But it is what it is. We have Rob Williams, who, if he stays healthy next year, will be even better than this year. But yeah, overall, solid season. Sad that it's over, and sad that we lost like that. But I am excited to see what happens in the off season and who we acquire and who we lose. I'm also excited to see how we do next year, and yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on my Celtics right now. Will.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it just from this view, following up an NBA Finals appearance with a 7 game Eastern Conference Finals series is an extremely successful season. But just looking at other parts of the season, the Celtics were thrown, and Joe Mazzulla specifically, as you said, thrown into such a tough position to start the year. So just the fact that they're able to get as far as they got under him is something to be celebrated overall for sure. And I think this was a Celtics team that was very talented, but also displayed different flaws that they had, throughout the season, like you pointed out, the turnovers that Jaylen Brown dealt with. So I think this is a really talented team. They just need to look at fixing a few things up to get back to title contention level where they were at last season. So I think this is a really talented team. They've just gotta work on fixing some of the flaws that they displayed at certain points throughout this regular season and post season. So I think if the Celtics can do that, they'll have a really bright future going forward. So yeah, I'll be really curious to see how this offseason offseason plays out for them for sure.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. That's for sure. But yeah, moving on from Celtics because it's still kind of upsetting. I want to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I will be probably seeing today or I mean tomorrow or the next day. Will, I am so excited for this movie. I
95% Rotten Tomatoes,
oh wow.
9.1
I
out
mean,
of 10 IMDb.
well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I had a nightmare last night. That this I am being 100% honest.
Okay.
I had a nightmare last night where Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was at a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes and was going down to a 50%.
Wow. Wow.
I I when I woke up, I thought it was actually that low, and then
Yeah.
I checked Rotten Tomatoes. One review was in when I checked in the morning. 95%. And
Yeah.
right now it's still at 95. Yep, and people are calling it the best Spider-Man movie of all time. This is this is what I want. I am so excited for this. I think it'll show people that animation isn't just a kids genre. Um, I am so excited for this movie. I want to just go through a few reviews. I can't find a negative review actually, so it's all gonna be positive. And they're all gonna be from the critics, no audience reviews yet. But boy, I am so excited for this movie. Actually, well, before I read reviews, I want to hear your thoughts on this film.
Oh, I'm super excited to see it. These like animation is not something that I go to all the time, but just the animated stuff that Marvel and Star Wars have come out with is really changing my opinion on animation as a whole. So, I mean, with how good the reviews are, I'm super excited to see this Spider-Man movie. So all of the excitement that you talked about, I completely echo everything that you said. I'm super excited to see it.
Yeah, I think it'll be an awesome theater experience. I'll try to see it in IMAX, but if not, that's fine too. As long as I get to see this movie, you know. But let me just go through a few reviews right now. Starting off with Dan Scully. Um, it's at least as good as the first film, if not better, which awesome to hear because the first film was awesome. Mike Ryan says it's one of the most, if not the most, immersive superhero stories going. Whoa, pushing far beyond the boundaries of what superhero stories should and could be. Whoa,
Awesome.
that's exciting. I that gets me excited for this movie. Will that gets me really excited for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Absolutely.
That's crazy awesome to hear. Derek Smith, a top critic on Rotten Tomatoes, says the film gleefully matches exhilarating stylistic experimentation with multi-tiered narrative of equal ambition. So, sounds like the animation is off the charts, and the story is also off the charts, and that's coming from a top critic. So that's awesome to hear. Um, and I think we'll we'll uh we'll read one more review.
Yeah, cool.
Uh, Graham Tuckett, I'm not sure if I pronounced that name right. He gave it a 4.5 out of 5. He says, I sat and stared at Across the Spider-Verse like a kid seeing special effects for the first time. Across many animation techniques and tiny peppering of live action. What? You hear that? A
Wow.
tiny peppering of live action.
Oh my gosh. Is that going to be Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, or Andrew Garfield? Because if it is, I will lose my mind.
That's what it's sounding like.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
I need to take a breath. I need to take a breath. But if we get that, oh baby,
That would be.
is all I have to say.
Wow. If not, it'll still be cool to see it in live action.
Oh yeah.
He continues to say the Spider Verse films are a whirling gallery of color, design, and sound. Wow, thank you, Graham Tuckett. I don't know how to say your first name, but thank you for that review because you just told us there was going to be live action and you
Oh, I'm
didn't
so
spoil
excited.
it. He didn't spoil it either, so thank you so much. That was an awesome review. Wow, that just brings my excitement even higher. I'm also excited at the runtime, 2 hours and 20 minutes, longest animated movie of all time, I believe. So exciting. Well, I am so excited for this movie. I can't wait to see what goes down in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
I feel like the superhero movies that you should get really excited for are the ones that even the critics can't contain how much they love. Because let's be honest, I think critics are getting tired of how many Marvel movies and DC movies and superhero movies are out in the world right now. And I think that can impact their reviews sometimes. So I feel like the superhero movies people should get the most excited for are the ones that even the critics can't get enough of.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to our next topic, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So, Will, I loved Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I thought it was one of the best Marvel movies of all time, and one of the best movies of the year so far. You didn't think that, which I was
But I
surprised to
I
hear.
didn't I changed my opinion on my second viewing though. It went up for me a lot. I tend to have that a lot with Marvel movies because I get so excited going into them and they can never the first viewing doesn't quite live up to my excitement, but when I can just relax, sit back and watch it again, I have a different take. So I actually enjoyed it much more the second time around, and I do now feel how you feel. I thought it was very very good.
Yeah, it was an awesome, awesome send off to these characters that we love so much. I was happy with spoilers, by the way. I was happy they didn't kill anyone off. Because it would be kind of weird if they just killed half the crew and then they had to send off all the characters, you know? Um,
Right. I'm surprised to hear you say that though, because you always feel that death makes movies better. So like, do you feel like this is one of those movies that didn't need that?
yeah, I feel like it was fine as it was, you know?
I did too. Yeah.
Um, it was incredibly entertaining. Soundtrack, as always, was fantastic. Um, yeah, I just really enjoyed it overall. All the acting was terrific. I think Drax and Nebula were the standout. Well, and Rocket, of course, were the
Mantis, I
standouts.
thought was great too.
Yeah, Mantis I thought was awesome, but I had Nebula just a bit over her because I feel like this is the movie where she really gets to shine. Because she was, I kind of didn't like her character for a while, and now I really enjoy her character. I really thought she made a lot of growth as a character, and I think she'll be coming back at some point because Karen Gillan hasn't said anything about not returning to the franchise. Whereas Dave Bautista, who plays Drax, is no longer coming back as Drax, which I'm fine with because he ended his storyline
Oh
perfectly.
yeah. Oh yeah. I
It,
think they all did.
yeah, totally. Rocket also awesome ending to an awesome character who, if you'll remember, Will, I've always been a huge fan of Rocket.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
He has been one of my favorite MCU characters for a while. So to see him kind of the main focus of the movie, exciting and really awesome to see. Will Poulter as Adam Warlock, hilarious. Don't be rash. It was so funny. He was hilarious. Unnecessary, yes, kinda. But was he a breath of fresh air whenever he was on screen? Yes, he was awesome. He was the perfect actor for the role. Um, yeah, overall, awesome performance from Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. Great character. And his costume and his whole outfit looks awesome. One more thing I just like to speak on is Gamora. I like them making her not the same person, just bringing her back. I liked what they did, even though James Gunn didn't even know they were gonna kill her off in Endgame. I mean Infinity War. He was dealt a bad hand, and he made it work. He made Gamora a good character, you know. So I was so happy to see that, and I was happy to see Quill reunite with his father, with his actual father. It was all awesome to see. Yeah, great movie. Great movie
Yeah,
overall.
and I feel like it had Yondu's death in Guardians too. Great to see him in the movie for a second. By the
Yeah,
way, that was awesome. I mean, his death in Volume Two was obviously sad, but I can't think of two more emotional and beautiful moments in the Guardians films than when you think Rocket's gonna die and you think that Peter Quill is going to die. Both of those moments just hit me so much, and it's a testament to how much they made you care about those two characters and how much you didn't want them to die. So anytime I feel like a character is about to die and you're just like, no, don't have it happen, don't have it happen, don't have it happen. I feel like the writers of the story have won because that means that they've made you really care about them. And I just thought those two moments in the film were so fantastic. And I think there were story arcs for every single character in the movie. I think at the end of the film, every single member of the Guardians of the Galaxy team had found their own peace and their own purpose in different ways. So I thought it was rewarding on multiple levels.
yeah. Let's see. Oh yes, the High Evolutionary.
Hated him.
What an awful
Great.
person,
Yeah,
great villain.
exactly.
Wow, what an epic performance by, I don't know how to say his name. I'm not even going to try. Will, do you know the correct pronunciation of his name?
I do not, and I apologize for that. But I thought he was one of the more hateable villains
In a good
that
way.
in a good way, exactly, in a great way, but one of the more hateable villains that the MCU has produced. And it's really hard to beat Thanos, but Marvel has done a really good job recently with bringing in characters like Namor and Kang the Conqueror and now the High Evolutionary. They've done a really good job post Thanos of still being able to find incredibly hateable villains.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people love Thanos and love Killmonger and Namor for that reason, because you can kind of see where they're coming from. You cannot see where the High Evolutionary is coming from. He is insane. He is an awful person, but he is just so fun to watch on screen. He is so well acted. I really wish I knew how to pronounce his name, but I don't. Awesome performance, and it's just such a great villain, and yeah, I loved it. I also wanted to give a score for this movie. Out of 10, this movie gets a 9 out of 10. It was really, really solid. Also, I want to point out, we got a Springsteen song in it. Well, granted, it was the second song in the credits, but we got a Springsteen song. I
Which
was
was
excited about that.
yeah, which was fantastic. I was excited about that from the moment that I knew it was going to be in the movie. I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. And one more thing on the soundtrack, which is obviously fantastic. Great to hear Badlands. Great to have Come and Get Your Love come back. But my gosh, No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Amazing.
Yeah.
And Dog Days Are Over was great too.
Unexpected, but awesome. Yeah, so overall, awesome movie. I think we both enjoyed it. And yeah, that was the last topic we had for the Everything podcast, Will. Yeah, so that does it for today's
Yeah,
episode.
always fun to do these, as always.
Yeah. And I just want to remind you guys, subscribe, please. Leave a like, comment. We love the comments. Also, check out Public Alley 43 on YouTube and Spotify. And yeah, thank you guys so
Yes.
much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.